in June of 2013?
I was the branch manager, so I pretty much ran the whole branch. I had to do everything. I pick customers up, clean cars, make sure we had enough cars in our fleet, manage my employees, handle customer conflicts, write tickets, answer the phone.
Okay. And do you recall working on June 10th of 2013?
I do.
And on that day, what hours were you working?
I got there 7:30, quarter of 8 till 6:30 at night.
Okay. Sometime during that day, did you have an occasion to rent two different cars?
Yes.
And do you recall who you rented those cars to?
Yes.
And who is that?
Aaron Hernandez.
And Aaron Hernandez, do you see him in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you just point him out and describe what he's wearing?
He's wearing a suit with looks like a blue and white striped tie, white shirt.
Your Honor, if the record can reflect the witness identifying the defendant. Now, just tell us about the circumstances of how you rented two cars to the defendant.
He came into my office looking for two cars that day. I came out because one of my other employees was helping another customer, so I came out to help him. He asked for an SUV. I said I had a Suburban, and then he just didn't care what the other kind of car was. So I said I had an Altima. He said those would be fine.
Okay. And just during the time that you were speaking with him, did you ask him how long he was going to need these cars?
Oh, yep. He said he'd need the Suburban for about a month, and then the car just for a few days.
Okay. And as a result of that, was there a date then affixed, a month date for the Suburban?
Yeah, I put a month in, and then for the two cars, I put a couple days in for him, or the one car, sorry,
Okay. And what was the other car?
a Nissan Altima.
And so what date or how many days did you put that in for?
I think through till the Thursday, so we came in on a Monday through Thursday.
Okay. And did you have further conversation with him about the rentals?
What do you mean?
Did you have a conversation with him about the paperwork that was required to be filled in? And
Oh, yep, I asked for his license and credit card, and then we filled out all the paperwork, or the contract as we call it. I went over it with him, he signed it, he chose to take the coverage on the vehicle, so he initialed for that.
And at some point, did you also have a conversation with him where he gave, you had provided him one of your cards?
I had a conversation with him about, he previously rented cars when I wasn't there, but they got dropped off at different locations, but nobody was made aware that they got dropped off. So I told him, you know, if you're going to drop the cars off somewhere else, that's totally fine. I just need to be aware of when and where they actually got dropped off. And he then gave me his number on my business card, telling me, if I had any problems, to call him directly, because we had trouble getting a hold of him. So I think we probably had other numbers for him in the system that didn't work anymore.
Okay. I could have a moment, Your Honor. May I approach? I'm just going to show you these two photographs and ask if you recognize them.
Yes. Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
The Chevy Suburban.
And was that the one that was rented to the defendant on June 10th, 2013?
It looks very similar to the one that was rented to the defendant. I don't remember the exact license plate.
Okay. Just going to show you what was marked. Exhibit number 121. Do you recognize this item?
I do.
And what do you recognize that to be?
That's my business card with his phone number on it.
When you say his phone number on, who put his phone number on?
I'm sorry?
When you say his phone number, who's him?
Oh, Aaron Hernandez.
And who put that number on your card?
Aaron did.
Approach again, John.
Right.
I approach on that. And I'm going to show you what was previously marked. 88 and 89 records relating to Enterprise. Just going to have you take a look at that and ask if you recognize the materials contained in that exhibit.
Yes.
Does that contain the license information for the Suburban that you rented on June 10th?
Yes.
Okay, what was that?
It's hard for me to read it. Looks like it's hard for me to see it, to be honest with you,
Okay.
to read it through that copy. There's definitely a 4 in there.
Okay. Is there another place in these documents?
Do you have the? Yep.
And what was the license plate?
442427.
Approach one now. Just going to show you these photographs again. Do you recognize the license plate?
I do.
And what is that in these photos?
442427.
And what state is that registered in?
Rhode Island.
Is that the same as what was rented to Aaron Hernandez?
Correct.
It's not wrong for these photos next.
I'm sorry, can I just see them?
Sure.
No objection.
Next exhibit.
Okay, is your video on? And I'm placing 138A on the overhead. You recognize that as the Suburban you rented to the defendant?
Yes.
And 138B, is that just a different view of the same vehicle?
Yes.
I also asked you about there was a separate car that you had rented him on that date,
Yes.
and that was what?
The Nissan Altima.
I'm going to show you what was previously marked 120A. You recognize that vehicle?
I do.
And what do you recognize it to be?
The Nissan Altima that I rented to him.
A minute ago, I showed you what was marked 121. You identified that as your business card.
Correct.
And on the back, that number is the number the defendant gave you.
Correct.
Now, the day on June 10th, the defendant rented those two cars. At some point, did you leave the inside of the office to go outside?
Yes.
And did you see anybody else with him?
Someone dropped him off, but I didn't see who they were.
Okay. And how long would you say he was there?
Maybe a total of a half hour.
And after that, what happened?
He left with the cars.
Okay. Do you know who, did you see him drive off in one of the cars?
I believe he got into the Suburban. I'm not sure who took the Nissan Altima.
Okay. Now, when is the next time that you saw the defendant?
About a week later.
Okay, and what date was that, if you recall?
The 17th?
And just tell us about that. How was it that you saw him on that date?
I was in my office doing paperwork, and one of my employees said that Aaron Hernandez was coming back into the office. So I went out to help him out, and he said that he needed to return the car. So I thought he was bringing back the Altima. And then I saw like a hand move inside the car. I said, "There's people with you." He told me, "Oh yeah, that's my cousin." I said, "Okay, do you guys need a ride home?" And he's like, "No." I said, "Oh, is someone picking you up?" And he said, "No." And so I looked at him sort of confused because I wasn't sure then what he was planning on doing. I didn't know how he was going to get back. And then he explained to me, he said, "No, this one got damaged. I need to get a new car." And so I was like, "Oh, you need to switch out." He said, "Yes."
Okay. So when he first arrived, did you see anybody come into the office with him?
No.
And his first statement to you was?
I need to return the car.
Okay. And what was the mention then of his cousin?
I saw a hand move. So I said, "Oh, there's people in the car." And he said, "Oh yeah, that's my cousin."
Okay. And when you say there were people in the car, how many people in the car?
I only saw one hand at the time.
Okay. Later on, did you have occasion to go outside?
Yes.
And how many people did you see?
Including him, 3.
Okay. And so these two other people, if you just describe them.
One of them I remember just to be looking older than him, and because I only paid attention to him because he didn't seem to fit with the other two's age group. The other one looked to be probably about the same age as him, so I didn't really pay much attention to how he looked. But the older gentleman had graying hair.
Okay. And just describe him.
He was darker skin, graying hair, had some wrinkles, so that's how I knew he was probably older than him, so it just didn't fit. He's probably my height, maybe a little shorter.
Okay. And what about his build?
Probably medium build, not too small, not too big.
Okay. And this other individual that was with him, just describe him.
I didn't really get a good look at him. He seemed maybe a little darker skinned than the other gentleman, shorter than Aaron, but probably taller than me. But I didn't really pay much attention to him because he seemed to fit with his age group, so he didn't seem to,
Yes, sir.
didn't seem weird to me.
So at the time that he came and indicated that he wanted to return the car, did he say anything else?
Just that it had gotten damaged and then he needed a new one.
Okay. And did you ask him about how it had become damaged?
We went outside because he needed to get a new car, so I went outside to show him which cars we had. And then he picked a car, so he picked the 300.
And what is the 300?
It's a Chrysler,
Okay. And do you recall what color it was?
silver.
Okay. And then what happened?
And then he was going to bring all the stuff over from where he had parked the Altima to the 300. I told him just to drive the car over so it would be easier for him. And then as they were moving stuff over, I asked him about the damage. And he said he didn't know how it happened. He just came out, it was like that. He apologized, said he doesn't damage cars. And I'm like, and it's fine, you know, accidents happen. But, you know, you honestly don't know what happened. Did anybody hit you? Did you hit anybody? And he just kept saying, you know, I don't know what happened. And he kept apologizing to me. And I was like, you know, you have the coverage, it doesn't matter. And like, you know, you have to be responsible. And he said he didn't know how it happened, so I stopped pushing.
Okay. How long would you say you had questioned him about what had happened to the car?
Maybe 5-7 minutes.
Okay. And to the extent that he could describe what had happened, what did he say?
What do you mean?
What did his explanation for the damage was what?
Oh, they just came out and it was like that. He doesn't know how it happened.
Okay. Did he say where the vehicle was when he came out and it was like that?
He didn't say where it was, and I think I asked him, was it outside your house and it just came out like that? He's like, yeah, I just came out and it was like that. So he never really said to me exactly where it was, but I think I said to him.
Okay. And when you had initially gone out and you were talking about then with him renting the 300, you indicated that you told him to get his car and bring it over near the other one?
To make it easier, yeah.
Okay. And where was it parked at that time?
The Altima
Yes.
was parked on the opposite, like across from my building, against the fence.
Okay. And how far was that from your building?
Further from here to the end of the door.
Okay. And when you say the door, it's to the back of the courtroom?
The second door too, so.
In the second door, okay. And so after you said that, did you see him go, well, these other two individuals, where were they when you made that statement to him?
At the car.
I'm sorry?
They were at the car.
Okay, and did you see where the defendant went after you told him, made that statement to him?
Yeah, he got into the driver's seat and they drove over next to the 300.
Okay. And when he pulled in next to the 300, just describe what you saw. What did they do?
Well, I was asking him about the damage when he pulled it over, and then the other individuals were just moving things over from the car, what looked like maybe wires or like maybe a charger or something like that, nothing big or major.
Okay. And how long now were you alongside these vehicles at that location?
Probably like the 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay. And just tell us about your observation of the car at that time, the Nissan Altima.
Well, the mirror was broken off to where the arm was even broken off. There was wires hanging out. The driver's side front window was scratched. There were scratches all along the driver's side of the car going from the bumper, the front bumper all the way through the back door. There were scratches on the hubcap. Both the top and bottom of the driver's side door were scratched, and then the bottom of the rear driver's side door.
Okay. Did you have conversation with him about that damage?
That was when I asked him if he knew what happened, and he said no, he didn't know what happened.
Okay. And as a result of your conversations with him, do you do something with regard to, documenting or writing reports?
Yeah, I have to do a damage report.
Okay. And that damage report, was that contained in the records that I just showed you, that exhibit?
Yes.
And now, after that number of minutes where you had the conversation with him, did you see what happened from there, where he went?
They got in the 300 and drove off.
Okay, and when you say they got in the 300, who was that?
Aaron with the two other gentlemen he was with.
Okay. And who was driving when they left?
Aaron.
Now, did you, just with regard to your duties, what do you do upon the return of a car?
In general,
Yes.
you have to clean them up, get them ready to rent again.
Okay. And do you recall, if this were the 17th, June 17th, do you recall when you would have done that with the Nissan Altima?
I did it the morning of the 18th.
Okay. And just describe what happened on the morning of the 18th?
Before my office was open, I pulled the Nissan Altima into my bay, and I vacuumed out the front area because there was ashes in it, so I didn't want to sit in the sun at the body shop and have the ashes just in there.
When you say there were ashes, where were the ashes?
The driver's side floor and the center console.
Okay. And so what do you do when you find ashes and the like in a rental car?
We vacuum it up, and then we want to wipe down the interior and wipe down the windows and just make sure we clean up as much as we can because we don't want the smell of the smoke in the cars.
Okay. And so what else do you do with regard to cleaning a car after it's been returned?
Well, you'd vacuum the whole thing, so make sure you move the seats, check all the pockets, check the trunk, all the compartments. You'd wipe down all the interior, so all the leather or whatever material it's made out of, vacuum the seats, you wash the windows, and you'd wash the outside of the car.
Okay. Do you use any cleaners on the inside of the vehicle?
Yep, on like the vinyl, we would use, we call it an orange clean. It's more of like a polish clean. And then on the windows, you'd use something similar to a Windex, but it's more of a foam than just like spray.
Okay. And during the course of the time that you spent cleaning this vehicle, did you find any items that had been left behind inside the vehicle?
I did.
What did you find?
In the cup holder on the front driver's side, there was a small vitamin water bottle. And then when I moved the driver's seat forward to vacuum the back, I found a drawing, which looked like a watercolor drawing. When I moved that, I found a piece of chewed, looked like blue bubblicious gum. And then when I moved the seat forward, I looked up and I saw what I thought was a bullet.
Okay.
So I picked them all up and I threw them out.
Okay, and just tell us, how did you, well, first, let me just ask you this. Describe the location where you found, now you've described it as a bullet. Just
That's it, yeah.
describe, what did it look like?
It was goldish in color, metal, probably only about maybe that big.
I can use the overhead room.
A place with the mark 125 in the overhead. Recognize that item?
Yes,
What do you recognize that to be?
that is what I thought was the bullet that I found underneath the driver's side seat.
Now, at that time, you were referring to this item as a bullet,
Yes,
and when you found it, let me just show you something here. I don't know if you can see that, but you see some bluish material on the side of that.
I do.
Okay. When you found this, was there anything attached to it?
No,
Okay. And after you found it, what, if anything, did you do?
I used the child's drawing to pick up the gum and then to pick up the bullet. So it was all stuck together.
I can use it. You indicated that you found a child's drawing. Just describe that if you would.
It was, looked like maybe done with watercolors, but there was a lot of color to it.
I'm just gonna show
It was
you
ripped.
What was marked as 122J. Would you recognize that item?
I do.
Yeah, we recognize that.
The drawing that I picked up out of the back of the car.
And after you picked it up out of the car, and you noticed these other items, I'll show you. You see that item there?
I do.
And where do you recognize that to be?
The chewed gum.
And did you do something with the gum?
I picked it up off the rug off the back seat of my car
And how did you pick it up?
with the child's drawing that you just showed.
And after picking that up, did you also pick up the other item that you described as a bullet?
I did,
And how were you able to do that?
because I used the paper and the gum to pick it all up.
I'm going to show you what was marked 122E. Do you recognize that?
I didn't see the underside of the picture because I didn't flip it over. I just used it to pick it up both.
I see. And after you picked it up, just describe what did you do with that item?
I threw it into the dumpster on my lot next to my building.
Now, at that time you did that, what, if any, information did you have about the death of Odin Lloyd?
None.
Now, At some point, while the defendant was on the 17th, prior to him leaving in the vehicle, the Chrysler 300, did he offer you something?
He did.
And what was that?
He offered me a piece of gum.
And did you see the gum he was offering you?
It looked like it would have been Blue Bubblicious in the packaging.
Did you take any?
I did not.
Now, at some point in time, were you contacted by somebody from the police?
I was.
And do you recall when that was with regard to the cleanup of the vehicle?
It might have been, so I cleaned the car before 8, so probably around 10, maybe 10:30. I received a phone call from Detective Mike Elliott.
Okay. And as a result of that phone call, at some point, did he come to Enterprise?
Correct.
And as a result of that, did something happen with regard to the Nissan Altima?
After they eventually, I think, took the Nissan Altima into custody off my lot. They towed it off my lot.
Okay. And do you recall sometime after that, after the Nissan was taken from the lot, having a further conversation with Detective Elliott? Well, let me ask you this. Do you recall at some point learning certain information about an investigation underway in North Attleboro of a reported homicide?
I do.
Okay.
So
And as a result of that, or just tell us what information were you, how did you learn about that?
when they were in my office, I didn't tell them what I found because I didn't realize that the Altima was important or that they needed it at all, because they came in asking about the 300 and the Suburban. A few days later, as more information came out in the media and the news, I realized that maybe the Altima was more important than the other cars. And so I called Detective Elliott on Thursday evening of that same week to let him know what I found in the car.
Okay. And after speaking to him, do you know where, were you at Enterprise when you called him?
I was not at Enterprise when I called him.
Okay. After speaking with him, did you go somewhere?
After speaking with him, I was asked to go from where I was living at the time to the North Attleboro Police Department.
Okay. Do you know if anybody, on your way to North Attleboro Police Department, did you go by Enterprise?
I did.
And when you went by Enterprise, did you see anything?
Yes, I saw a bunch of individuals standing around my dumpster.
Okay. Did you stop at that time?
I did not.
And ultimately, did you go to the, after going by Enterprise, did you go to the station?
I did.
And did you speak to any officers? Just yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to show you this item, and see if you recognize it.
I do.
What do you recognize that?
The keys to the Suburban.
Okay, and is there a tag on these keys?
Yep.
Okay, and would that, what kind of information would be contained?
The VIN number, the license plate number, the unit number,
What
and then
about-
the year, make, and model.
Okay. And, well, if, Your Honor, if I could mark this, off this as an exhibit this time.
No objection.
And Mark's next exhibit.
And I'm just going to show you a diagram. Do you recognize what it generally purports to be a diagram of?
A vehicle.
And you've indicated that there was, there were these items, what you described as a bullet, a gum, and this child's drawing located in an area of the car. Is that right?
Correct.
Could you, with this pen, would you mark those areas?
Sure. Do you want me to just do marks?
If you would put, maybe your word was a bullet, if you'd use a B
Sure.
in that location. And for the gum, you could use G, and then to the drawing, you would use a D. Just sort of show where those.
Okay.
Okay. And do these accurately represent locations where you found these items.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. You want to offer this?
I'll just say it, please. Objection.
Moving on to the next exhibit.
I just thought she's too young.
Come in.
And then I'm first going to show you 139. Do you recognize those to be?
The keys to the Suburban.
And the key tag that you referred to with certain information on it, does that contain information relative to the make, model, and license plate?
It does.
Is that shown there?
It is.
And if you just read that, what was the make?
The make was a Chevy Suburban, 2013.
Okay, did it have a license plate?
It does.
What is that?
442427, Rhode Island.
And I'm going to show that drawing I showed you a moment ago. That's been marked now as being Ford. Now, ma'am, you indicated these items, where were they in the vehicle?
Under the driver's seat.
Okay, and is the driver's seat shown where in this diagram?
The left-hand, upper left-hand side.
Okay, and I'm just zeroing in here. Is that now what's predominantly shown in the overhead?
Correct.
Okay. And just describe where you found the item I showed you earlier was that you referred to as a bullet. Where was that found?
In the upper left-hand corner.
And is that marked now?
Correct.
And is that marked with what?
A B.
Now, when you first went into the car, were you able to observe that item in its location where the seat was positioned?
Did I observe it?
Yes, when you first went into the car, were you able to observe that?
You couldn't see without moving the seat forward.
Okay. At some point, did you move the seat forward?
Yes, I did.
And when you did that, were you able to see it?
Yes.
And that location, just in terms of the seat, is that the driver's side left, front left?
Correct.
Okay. And you indicated as well there was a piece of gum that was initially under the seat?
Correct.
And did you have to do the same thing to observe that, moving the seat?
When I moved the child's drawing, I could see the gum.
Okay. And so how close was it to the rear of that seat?
The bottom right-hand corner.
Okay. And is that indicated where you can get a G here?
Correct.
And lastly, the drawing, is that depicted accurately on this diagram?
Correct.
And what, if you just point to that area?
Point to it. Holding right.
Okay. And what part of that was under the seat? How much of it was under the seat?
Probably the majority of it was under the seat, but I could see a little bit sticking out.
And as a result, do you recall what item you recovered first?
The drawing.
And then after that?
The gum.
And then the third thing?
The bullet.
You also indicated there was an item, there's a fourth item, is that right?
Correct.
And what was that?
The small bottle of vitamin water.
And where did you locate that?
In the driver's side cup holder.
I'm sorry?
The driver's side cup holder in front.
I'm just going to show you 122I. See if you recognize that.
I do.
Okay, would you recognize that to be?
The bottle of vitamin water that I took out and threw out.
Ma'am, at some point, as a result of your interaction with the police, did they ask you to do something? Did you have to go to the station?
Yep,
And did you provide them your fingerprints?
I did.
Do you recall who took your fingerprints?
A technician, I don't recall his name.
Okay. And you indicated initially that the Nissan Altima was to be rented for how long?
Only a few days.
Okay. And when the Nissan Altima came back, you indicated that was on the 17th?
Correct.
Was that the scheduled date for it to be returned?
No,
And the Suburban, when was that scheduled to be returned?
a month from the 10th.
And do you know that, did you learn that that was later recovered?
Yes.
Now, are you familiar with the, if when a car is rented, with regard to if there's any toll violations, how that's handled with regard to the rental agreement?
It gets handled out of a different department inside the administration building, but what they would do is send a letter to the renter, letting them know that they had a toll violation, Enterprise paid it, but they've attached a fee, and they send them a bill, and that they have to pay that bill within so many days, or else they'll charge their card on file.
Yeah, I'm just going to show you what's marked as number 89. You recognize this document?
Yes.
Toll violation document.
Yes.
And the information, in terms of the billing, that would be, just describe that, what information is recorded in the billing of the renter.
The date, the time, the plate number of the vehicle, where it took place, state, the amount of the toll, and then it will show their fee too. And then that invoice number is probably something that's associated with Enterprise and how we would do it with our accounting department.
Okay, and the invoice number, first of all, it indicates an issuing agency.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Correct,
Okay, and then you're right underneath that, there's an invoice number.
correct.
Whose invoice number would that be?
I'm assuming it has to do with Enterprise, is how they generate it. I don't generate these from my branch because I'm in a different department, but I'm assuming that's how they know where to associate the payment of that for their documents on the accounting side.
I see. And in terms of the contract that you entered into, then that just added to the bill of the, is that billed then on the credit card?
If the customer doesn't call with a different form of payment within so many days, they would attach to the credit card that would be on file with the contract that that car is associated with, but it wouldn't be added onto the contract bill that I would do. It would be done at a different department. So I would never actually see that bill put on his bill.
I see.
The only reason I see these if customers come in with questions.
Okay. And this particular document, it indicates information relating to the toll violation, is that true?
Correct,
And is there a fee for that that's added on?
correct. $18.
And this violation information indicates a location of the occurrence,
Correct.
and that is where?
The Mass Pike.
Does it indicate a reference number to the vehicle that was rented to the defendant?
It does.
And what is that plate number?
536MX2,
And does it indicate the state where that's registered?
Massachusetts.
And how about date and time?
6/17/2013 at 2:53 a.m.
And over here, the renter's name,
Correct.
and who is that?
Aaron Hernandez.
And an address associated with the renter?
Yes.
And then a contract number?
That would be the contract number of what this car was rented on.
Okay, and you recognize that contract number?
Not off the top of my head.
approach you on it?
You may.
Just going to show you exhibit number 88. And ask you if you would just review that and with regard to that contract number that is contained in those documents.
Correct, yes.
Okay, and what is reflected there is to the contract, what vehicle was that?
The Nissan Altima.
Okay, is that the one that you rented to the defendant?
Yes.
And what is the contract number?
59N60R.
And have you described when the rental when he had come in, the defendant had come in to change, I refer to the word switch out. Could you just describe what that means?
It means that he's essentially returning one vehicle and getting another, but he's not ending his contract. So he's just switching out in the middle of his duration period of having the car.
And did he indicate when he switched out how long that rental period, how long he needed that vehicle, the Chrysler 300?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And that vehicle, did you later learn that that was also recovered?
I did.
May I push open? And I'm just going to show you what 129A. And do you recognize this type of vehicle?
Yep, it's a silver Chrysler 300.
And now 129B.
The front end of the silver Chrysler 300.
Do you recall the plate number of the Chrysler that you rented?
Not off the top of my head, no.
If I could approach you on it. Just going to show you what was previously marked Exhibit 88. Just ask you to look through those documents to see if that's refreshed.
Yes.
And what was the plate number of the Chrysler that you rented to the defendant, June 17, 2015?
451375,
Okay, what state is that?
Rhode Island.
Now, is there a procedure you follow when you rent a car, just to do a walk around before the renter takes the car?
Inspection, yes.
Inspection, okay. And was inspection done on the Nissan Altima?
Yes,
Did you note any damage to it?
I did not.
And later, I had asked you about conversations you had with the defendant about the damage you observed when it was returned. Is that right?
Correct?
And I asked you, is there a report of some type that you prepare to note any damage?
A damage report, yes.
And did you do that?
I did.
May I push you over? Just going to show you exhibit number 88. Ask if you recognize this document.
I do.
What do you recognize that document to be?
The damage report that I wrote on the Nissan Altima.
Do you recall the date and time that you wrote this report?
I wrote it the next day, next meeting.
Is that reflected on this report?
The date that I wrote it, yes,
Okay.
6/18.
And this report related to which vehicle?
The Nissan Altima.
Can you read that, ma'am?
This car was parked at customer's house, and when he went to it, he noticed that it had been hit. Asked customer if he saw anything, like another car hitting it or something. He said that he did not, and that he did not hit anything. The damage to the vehicle is the driver's side mirror is knocked off. Driver's side front mirror is also scraped. Plus, there are long scrapes and scratches that run along the driver's side of the vehicle, starting at the front driver's side bumper, going around the wheel well, scuffing the front driver hubcap. The scratches then extend across both driver's side doors, on both the lower and upper portion of the front driver door and lower portion of the rear driver door. There are also scrapes on the front passenger door, scrapes closest to where the door meets the front quarter panel, and 3 right in a row, one on top of the other, and they are about 3 inches in length around the area of where the stripping is in the middle of the car, and then one more behind them, also about 3 inches in length, right on top of the stripping.
Was that different? The appearance of the vehicle, was it different the week after you had rented it? To the
Correct.
defendant? Get it one more moment. That's all I have. Thank you, ma'am.
Can you approach very briefly, Your Honor, please? I'm sorry.
Recess a little early.